well, welcome to the pre-show for Steer the Line. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing well, Loud. How are you? How are you, Christian?
I'm doing well, Jeremy. How you doing, Loud?
Doing good, doing good. Where the hell is Rocky?
Oh,
He's
here
somewhere.
He is. Hey, look, you decided to show up.
I've been back here waiting for someone to let me in. It says,
Hey, you know where the echo's coming from? It's from you two.
Who two?
The two Giordanis are echoing. Neither Jeremy or I are. Are you guys in the same space?
No.
Wait.
Okay, well, I'm getting an echo from you, and I'm getting an echo from Rocky.
Of course.
So, just saying, we love technology.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, especially when it works like this.
For people tuning in, if they're wondering why we just jibber-jabber right now, it's because we also go live on the radio at 5:03. So we got to kind of hang out and do a whole lot of nothing until
Well, that's kind of you
5:03.
kind of got the pre-show going on here. You get to see the behind the scenes as everybody's getting ready.
You get to watch us check our
I
sound.
hear an echo. You still get an echo from me because I'm getting an echo from Lou
Yeah.
only.
Well, looks like we'll be dealing with the echoes for another week. By the way,
Everyone needs new mics.
speaking of echoes, I had a meeting today with a different sports book here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
And
what?
I have a meeting with them on July 1st to talk about a partnership. So
Yes.
the first one didn't work the way that I wanted. The fascinating thing is the radio station partner that I brought into the deal cut me out and went direct to the casino.
You know, some people.
And by the way, I found that out from the marketing director today when she told me, what
30
show are you
seconds.
talking about? We're doing a live show with so-and-so sports station in the football season on Friday nights.
Yeah. Loud doesn't like the way they do business.
I don't like their business ethic at all.
We're gonna let Loud Esmond handle the business.
All right, here we go.
Eh? We get paid for looking pretty.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
guys, here we go.
Its management, employees, or affiliates.
What's happening, football fans? It is time to steer the line. Touchdown! With your host, Loud Esmond and Jeremy James. For the best takes in NFL and football betting, fantasy football, and the latest news, get ready to steer the line.
Right, so it's Loud Esmond here, Jeremy James, and the Giordani duo joins us, Rocky and Christian, here on Steer the Line. Half an hour live here on KMET. Also, you can get it on the YouTube channel on replay. We'll start going live on YouTube next week. Also, excuse me, on the Max Wagers Network as well, and we'll be on there for a half an hour following this show if you want to switch over to the Max Wagers Network on YouTube and catch the rest of this program, the second half hour over there. Jeremy, did I cover it all?
Well, you can actually watch the entire hour live right now on the YouTube channel with
On
Max Wagers. Yes,
Right.
So you don't have to just,
Right,
That's
so
for
you can
anybody
watch
listening
all
on the
Max
radio
Wagers
right now. If you want the rest of the show, then, find us on YouTube.
Find us on Max Wagers on YouTube. All right, so betting on continues to be an issue because we are just not getting the kind of injury information and player information that we need to be getting. The most glaring example is last week, the quarterback for the Breakers, Kyle Sloter, Kyle Sloter goes out of the game. There's no explanation as to why. No one tells us why on the broadcast channel. He's just, gone. And the backup quarterback is in the game. And then the backup quarterback gets hurt. He goes out of the game. Sloter comes back in. He can barely move. And they never explain, ever, during the entire game, what is going on with either quarterback. And then they go to a sideline reporter who says, oh, by the way, down here on the sidelines, there was a brief moment where people were concerned because if neither of those quarterbacks could play, the backup quarterback is a receiver. And when I asked which receiver it was, they said, well, we'd have to figure that out. What? How am I supposed to, how are you supposed to know what the hell is going on when there's no reporting? And then this week, when you look at the reporting that Fox does on the USFL, there's no reports on injuries. There's nothing. So I don't know who's going to play quarterback for the Breakers. I do have them in my picks for an entirely different reason. But, man, Rocky, they got to clean that up, right?
Yeah, Vegas is still setting lines. So they must be enjoying this. It's kind of a different sort of a bet, kind of flip a coin for $100. Let's just bet the team we like and see what happens. There's a lot of, as we've talked about before, a lot of special teams mistakes, muff punts, fumbles. It makes for a lot of fun football. As long as you're not betting the house, I think it's still fun to bet the USFL. But yes, they have to take issue with it. It's important. I can't believe that Las Vegas hasn't put their foot down on their neck as yet. So somebody must be having fun with it in Vegas. That's all I know.
Well, the thing is this. Fox has their own proprietary Fox Bet where they're pushing betting, and then they own the league. So it does present a conflict of interest, right, Christian?
Yeah, it obviously represents a conflict of interest.
So and then I'm wondering, is Fox Bet getting injury information? Is Vegas getting injury information? Are other sports books getting injury information that the regular bettor, the square, isn't getting? Because that's an unfair advantage and why Jeremy doesn't like betting on sports. We all love betting on sports, just differently. For Jeremy, it's fantasy.
Yeah, you know me, Loud. It's fantasy. I put my money in the long run because I enjoy the game, and the winning is just, cherry on the top.
Anyway, I do have some USFL picks. The funny thing this week is the Generals are going to play the Stars, and then the Generals are going to play the Stars in the first round of the playoffs next week. The game that they are playing, in fact, none of the games that are left will have any effect at all on the playoffs. So there's nothing for anybody to play for this week at all, really. And so when the Generals face the Stars this week, if I'm the coach of either team, I'm resting everybody that matters, and I'm not showing them anything in terms of strategy, how I'm really going to play the game next week, because this game is totally meaningless and the playoff game is next week. So I am not putting any shekels on that game at all because who knows? And then the Maulers and the Panthers take on each other in what I have dubbed the USFL Loser Bowl. Yes, these are two teams that have 3 wins between them. So when two bad teams play each other, especially at the end of a lost season, who knows what the motivation is? Who knows who's going to play? And I don't want anything to do with either game. Rocky.
Yeah, the Who Cares Bowl. There's a lot of those that come around at the end of the season when guys have to play for. As far as the other matchup, where they're playing this week and then they're playing again in the playoffs. The underdog in that game, I promise you, is going to come out and try to beat them up. Like you said, there probably won't be a lot of the starters in there. To force them to come out for pride and try to show their hand, maybe play some starters, maybe get one injury, or at least show them some kind of a game plan. So I think I would take the underdog in that game. If I was going to bet it, I'd take the underdog in that game. As far as the underdog, they're going to be the underdog in the playoffs. You follow me? So
I see what you're saying.
I try to force their hand.
Yeah, I just think both teams are just going to say, forget it, and I'm staying away from it because.
Give me the 2 teams again, Lou.
The 2 teams in that game are the Generals of New Jersey and the Stars of Philadelphia.
And the Stars are the underdog.
Correct.
Stars are going to cover. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Birmingham Stallions take on the Tampa Bay Bandits. The Stallions were undefeated and comfortably in the playoffs, and they still are, except they're not undefeated anymore. They lost last week to the lowly Houston Gamblers. Now, I'm actually going to take the chalk team, the Stallions, in this game for the following reason. If they lose again this week, or if they play poorly this week, that's 2 bad games going into the playoffs where they're going to have to take on one of the other best teams in the USFL. And I don't think head coach Skip Holtz wants the team stumbling into the playoffs. I think he's going to play a bunch of his starters. I think they're going to have a tough week of practice. I think they're going to play tough. And the Tampa Bay Bandits aren't very good. The Tampa Bay Bandits have a little talent in quarterback Jordan Ta'amu, but he turns the ball over way too much, and the team's just generally undisciplined. They have the highest turnover ratio in the USFL at minus 13. Minus 13 in 9 games. So they're going to turn the ball over. The Stallions are going to want to win because they're not going to want to stumble into the playoffs. Christian, what do you think?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Lou?
The Stallions, I think, are going to cover the minus 3.5 because they're going to play hard and want to get some momentum going into the playoffs, and they're playing a team that stinks. In fact, is the worst in turnovers in the league at minus 13.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. If you're a team going into the playoffs, you definitely want to have a win coming in. And facing a pretty easy team, like you said, someone that you can beat on, will raise the confidence of your guys and hopefully give you a deep playoff push.
Yeah, good to have a win, a laugher going into the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Then in my only other USFL pick this week, USFL, easy for me to say, I'm going to do the exact opposite that I just did in the other game. One team is in the playoffs, one team is not. The Breakers are in the playoffs, the Gamblers aren't. But here's the thing. The Breakers have been winning, and they're dealing with lots of injuries, especially at the quarterback position. At the top of the show, I said, hey, both quarterbacks for the Breakers went out at one point during the game. They're both beat up, especially the starter, Kyle Sloter, who has been beat up all season with multiple injuries. Now he's got a groin, and so that's a problem. The second-string quarterback also went out during that game. Who knows who's going to be playing at quarterback? I just don't think the Breakers are going to really play anybody. They're going to have a very vanilla game plan. They're going to hand the ball off a lot, depend on their defense. Now, the Gamblers have issues on both sides of the ball. They rank dead last in the league in 345 yards per game. They also rank last in giving up 345.9 yards per game. They also rank last in total offense at 240.1 yards per game. However, I think the Breakers are going to be so conservative and rest so many players that I think the Gamblers cover the plus 3.5 here. And we go to our gambling expert, Jeremy James. It's all about motivation in these, right?
Yeah, I think at this point it is all about motivation. You know, you know who's going to the playoffs, you know who's not. So there's things to and not to play for. A lot of these guys, you know, it's going to be an audition to see if anybody can get some late season invites to training camp. You know, so
I just again your picks here. Stallions to chalk minus 3.5 because I think they want to play well going into the playoffs. And the Breakers, I'm giving the Gamblers the plus 3.5 against them because I think the Breakers are just going to be resting everybody. And then finally for USFL, the Philly Stars are plus 375 to win the whole thing. They have the worst odds of anybody in the USFL that's going to be in the playoffs. But here's the number I like about them. Plus 9. They have the best turnover ratio in the USFL at plus 9. They get a break in that they're playing the second worst team in the playoffs at plus 300. So all they've got to do is get by a team that is slightly better than them, and they're in the final game. And if they win the turnover ratio in the final game of the season, they got a chance to win the whole thing. And at plus 375, a $50 bet is going to pay you back almost $250. It's the USFL. Who the hell knows what's going to happen in the playoffs? So I'm going to take the highest odds team.
Yeah. Guy gives you 1,000 to 1 on a dollar, or 10,000 to 1 on a dollar that you can jump from the Venice Pier to the Santa Monica Pier. You got to try it.
Yeah,
you got to take the odds. You get that many odds, you got to take it.
Am I going to bet the chalk teams in the USFL playoffs at plus 100 and plus 120? No. I'm gonna take a long shot because I think everybody's got a chance to win.
Look, the season's almost over. This is time. If you're enjoying watching the league at all, this is time to have fun. Like you said, throw $50 down and take a flyer. You might win $250. Give you something to scream at your television about for sure.
Yeah, at least it'll make the playoffs a lot more exciting if you got some shekels on the line. All right. According to a recent article today, the Panthers of Carolina, who have Sam Darnold as their quarterback. Let me repeat that. They have Sam Darnold as their starting quarterback. Sam Darnold, who even the Jets didn't want. Eesh.
The Jets called him that damn Darnold.
Yeah, that so-and-so. By the way, is there a quarterback that's come up from USC that didn't suck?
Well, Carson Palmer didn't.
Come on.
He didn't suck.
He didn't win a Super Bowl or.
No, but he didn't suck.
Let's put it this way: he's no Joe Montana.
Hey, Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. Yeah, he didn't suck.
Let's just say he's no Joe Montana for those Notre Dame fans out there. Just throwing that out there. Not that Notre Dame quarterbacks have done jack in the NFL in
Brady
recent years.
Quinn is now an announcer.
Oh boy, Brady Quinn has really good hair. Anyway,
yeah, right.
The Panthers are still doing their due diligence on Baker Mayfield. Christian, do you buy that? According to recent reports, they're still trying to figure it out. That the Panthers of Carolina are still doing their due diligence on Baker Mayfield.
I mean, a team's going to have to pick up Baker Mayfield, so who better than Carolina? They don't really have anyone. Like, as you said, Sam Darnold, that damn Darnold. He's not he's not the guy for Carolina, but I don't think they're even part for contention this year for even a playoff spot. So, in my head, it doesn't make sense for them to go after a quarterback like Baker Mayfield unless they just want to put butts in the seats.
So you say stay with Sam Darnold?
I mean, if you're going to embrace the tank, embrace it. That's what you got to do.
Well, if you're going to stick to the suck, I guess that's the plan.
If you're going to suck, you better suck.
Jeremy, do you think Baker is still going to be there, say, by the preseason in Cleveland, or is he somewhere else?
I don't. Before Baker, who did they draft in Carolina? They got one of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, but he's not ready. He's not.
It's going to be. It's probably going to be him or Sam Darnold in New York, because I'm thinking there is going to be no Deshaun. Watson.
This plays into this. Okay, so let me read this report. Hang on. Let me read this report because this plays into it. According to recent stories, Deshaun Watson is likely to be suspended for the entire season. Let that sink in. He is likely to be suspended for the entire season. And let me just say, there was somebody on this show started saying that a few weeks ago. Who was it? I can't. Rhymes with crowd, I remember, was the guy's first name. And I think, Christian, you were on that train as well, right?
Yeah, I said he wasn't going to see another snap in the NFL ever in his career.
And he may not, because the other thing that I read is the Browns are exploring whether or not there's a way to undo the trade with the Texans.
Well, they actually just missed out on the deadline where they could have cut him and not paid that majority amount of his money. They would only have to pay him around $60 million. That cutoff was June 12th, I believe. So they are all in now. There's no way they can get rid of that contract.
They said they were.
Okay, so here's the situation. Deshaun Watson may not see the field at all. Baker Mayfield is still under contract to the Browns, but has made it clear he doesn't want to be there, and they've told him, we don't want you to come even to the building. How does this resolve itself? Who else do they have at quarterback?
I think they're going to have to work it out. It's the best move for Baker.
No!
It honestly is. He's going to have to suck it up and prove that he can be a professional. They're going to want to keep him there because the guy behind him would be the guy that played in Indy for a couple of years, started there. He was a New England Patriot. Yes, Brissett. Brissett is going to be the guy if Baker moves on and Watson isn't on the field. If Baker wants to fix his reputation and his career going into next year, he goes into Cleveland. He becomes a man. He steps in there. He plays quarterback for the season, plays well, hopefully for him. And then when Deshaun Watson gets himself back on the field next year, probably, Baker's more tradable and more teams are going to be willing to work with the guy if he can show that he can step up, be a pro, go to the team that chose him and needs him now. And they need to work that out. That's the best move for both of those teams with Watson not playing this season.
100%.
Yes.
Wow. If Baker, okay, you want to talk about one of the weirdest stories ever in the NFL. If Baker Mayfield plays the entire season for the Cleveland Browns, wow. Rocky.
It's a business, and Jeremy's 100% right. Look, Baker Mayfield is a professional football player, right? He doesn't get paid for standing around doing tweeting or Instagramming or nothing else. He gets paid to go out and throw a pigskin. Now, if Deshaun Watson does not take the field, and by the way, Deshaun Watson might get suspended, but I'll bet you $100 on my left nut that it's with pay. He gets all that money.
Christian knows the situation better than everybody. He gets his signing bonus no matter what, and then this year he was only scheduled to be paid $1 million, right, Christian?
I believe it was something near that, but his entire contract is fully guaranteed. $230 million.
But they purposely only gave him $1 million this year because if he got suspended for 4 or 5 games, then he would only pay, $75,000 a game or whatever, as opposed to if they were paying him $30 million this year, he's paying, it's $1.5 million or $2 million a game. So that they purposely think about that. They designed his contract and his pay schedule so that he could be suspended for the least possible financial damage.
Right. The path of least resistance is to suspend him with pay. If they try to suspend him without pay, that takes a while. They need to do that the first week of June. It's already second week of June because they have to suspend him. Then there's a process. A judge has to come. First, the league has to decide to do it. Then a retired judge, Sue Robinson, comes in, and she decides whether it's fair or not. Then the commissioner chimes in. This is a very time-lengthy process. If they didn't do it last week, they'll never get it done before opening day. And that's the whole idea. If they suspend him with pay, it's a 2-step process. The league says it, the commissioner puts his stamp on it, and it's a done deal. This guy's going to get every dime, Lou, and he doesn't deserve it. He's a freaking molester.
Wow. Okay, so AM Radio loves the fact that we're using this kind of language right now, but we'll just roll with it. So here's my question for everybody. Let's pretend Baker Mayfield goes to the Carolina Panthers. Let's just pretend. How many more games does Carolina win with him at quarterback as opposed to Sam Darnold, Jeremy? 2 more, 3 more, 4 more, less? Their over-under, by the way, of total wins in Carolina is 5.5 right now with Sam Darnold at quarterback. And they still have McCaffrey, and they've got a decent defense.
I think if they land Baker, or even if they landed someone like Garoppolo,
Jimmy G.
I think it's good for with the team. Another 3 wins, maybe 4, making like an 8-win team. Perhaps they they have, like you said, last year at times their defense looked absolutely 100% legit. They had some down games after injuries, but their defense played really well last year for a lot of the season. You talked about McCaffrey. Absolutely. Hopefully, if he's healthy, he's a weapon all the time. And you put somebody like Garoppolo or Baker, who's a little more talented than what they got there right now, and yeah, they could win another 3 games, maybe 4 games there.
See, if Baker Mayfield goes to Carolina, I think they're an 8 or 9 win team. Because the angry Baker is the winning Baker. Right, Christian?
Yeah, I can see them winning a few extra games. I wouldn't say 3 or 4. I would say 2. See them at like a 7-win team. But if Baker really gets in a stride and McCaffrey goes off in a great season, I can see them being an 8 or 9 win team, yes.
Okay, so their line is 5.5 with Sam Darnold. So if they got Baker 2 more games, and you are comfortably over the 5.5. So here's the thing. For betting purposes, you've got to really closely watch what's going on with Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers, because the minute he gets traded to Carolina, if he does, that number's going from 5.5 to 7.5. I may just put a bet on Carolina over because I'm confident they're going to get either Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I don't think they're staying with Sam Darnold, is what I'm saying.
I agree with that.
McCaffrey is one of the absolutely top 5 running back in the league, without a doubt. A guy who could manage a team like Baker Mayfield, just manage the game. Trent Dilfer could come in and make them an 8-win team.
A great defense, one of the best overall weapons on offense,
over
an angry
5.5,
Mayfield.
easy.
I'm over 5.5.
So
The only problem with Baker Mayfield on the team.
Hang on. Jeremy's got to jump in here.
Well, my question would be, so if something happens, Baker stays in Cleveland, and they have no shot at him, do they go after Garoppolo at that point? Are they like desperately getting somebody else in there besides Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I don't think I'm saying I'm leaning towards placing an over bet on Carolina early because I don't think they're going to stand pat with Sam Darnold. I think they have to get a better quarter. This is the coach's last year on his contract. If he doesn't go at least 500, he's fired. He's not going to go into this season with Sam Darnold. I think they're just waiting to see if Garoppolo's going to be healthy because I think they want Garoppolo more than they want Baker. But they're going to pull the trigger on one of them, don't you think, Jeremy?
1 minute.
I think so, yeah. And unless they decide, they don't want to pursue somebody if they feel confident that in a year or two maybe they're going to go to this rookie quarterback. I don't know if they like this guy much.
The coach won't be around to coach that quarterback if they don't win more than.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Maybe they want to see what they got. If they don't get Baker and they have to settle on Sam, the rookie may start. If it's I got 1 year, I got to see what I got in this kid. Maybe he wins us some games.
If the rookie starts, they're under 5.5. I think they have to go get Baker or Jimmy G. Jeremy, tell everybody how we're transitioning right now because we're transitioning out of where we are.
All right, if you're listening on the radio, thank you for joining us as we are here every Friday at 5 o'clock on KMET. So join us again every week there. And if you are capable and would like to, follow on over to YouTube. And we are on the, what's it called, Loud? Which network?
Max Wagers.
Max Wagers.
Wagers Network on YouTube. You can also put in Loud Esmond, that's me, and find it that way as well. But Max Wagers Network.
All right, so join us there. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
You're not want to hear old campaign promises.
All right, but now here we are. We continuing on live on Max Wagers on YouTube, and if you're hanging out watching, thank you. If you're joining us just now after the other show,
I'm going to recap the USFL picks real quick. The Stallions play the Bandits. The Stallions have been stumbling in the last few games, not doing all that well. They lost last week to the Gamblers. I believe that Skip Holtz coach is going to want them to play well going into the playoffs, and he's going to want to beat up on the poorer team, the Bandits. Therefore, I'm going to take the Stallions minus 3.5. And then the Gamblers play the Breakers. The Breakers have injuries all over the place and are assured a playoff spot. They have both their quarterbacks, first string and second string, ailing, and their third string quarterback would be a wide receiver to be named later. So they're not going to play anybody. They're going to be totally vanilla and just try to get through the game healthy. I like the Gamblers plus the 3.5 because of that. So Stallions minus 3.5 to beat the Bandits. Gamblers plus 3.5 against the Breakers. And the longest shot on the board to win the championship in the USFL right now that is in the playoffs is the Philly Stars at plus 375. Why would you bet on anybody else in the USFL but the longest shot, especially when they have the best turnover ratio at plus 9 in the league? So I have actually put money on that ticket and those two tickets and all of it as a parlay earlier today. And here's the pledge that I make to you sports bettors that follow the show. I will never recommend a bet that I myself am not making. Absolutely, God's honest truth. If I recommend a bet, I have money on it. Because if I don't have the confidence it's going to win, I'm not recommending it. So there we are. Christian, I think that's the best policy, right? Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, always put your money where your mouth is. If you can't walk the walk, don't talk the talk,
I think there's a lot of people out there in sports prognosticating that talk a lot of stuff, and I don't think they're betting on the games that they are actually prognosticating on, and that I don't do. If I'm not betting on the game, I don't recommend it, and I'll show you the tickets when they cash or don't cash. Jeremy, how are you, my friend?
I was muted for a moment. I'm doing great, Lou. Wow.
You have a Raiders update for us?
Yeah,
Well, by the way, just so everybody knows, Jeremy follows the Raiders for us, Rocky follows the Rams, and our Seahawks reporter is Christian. So every week we're going to...
Sorry, cough drop.
I'm so glad this is week 2 live on Facebook, on YouTube. I'm so glad.
Introduction.
How do you do a cough drop? How do you get rid of it? How do you get rid of a cough drop? How do you get rid of a cough drop?
Turn around.
There's a way.
You don't face the camera.
There's a way to actually turn your camera off.
Yeah.
I
can always.
I honestly thought it was a barf bag. I thought that's what I was seeing was
my little cough
we were
drop.
on an airline. Oh, my.
Great, Rocky. We had 2 viewers. Now we got 1. You grossed out the other one.
The other one just left.
Get rid of the cough drop.
Okay. Christian.
Yes.
You will admit you're related to him still.
I will not confirm or deny those accusations.
Let's do a reset. Welcome back to Steer the Line. Here we are on the Max Wagers Network. Jeremy's going to give us our Raiders update. Jeremy.
Man. Yeah. So there's a few little stories, nothing major, coming out of minicamp and all that stuff as we get out of the most of the minicamps heading into training camp in July. But we're looking at a couple of contract situations still with Las Vegas. We know that they're still talking about extending Waller. He's still got 2 years left on his current contract, but that's definitely something they're looking at doing. They have the money to do so right now, but there's also been some rumblings that they may make him wait another season and play under the current contract, even though he's severely underpaid. They're talking about making him wait maybe one more season and getting him extended next year. But the other guy that is kind of a surprise name that it might be looking at a new contract extension, of all people, is Denzel Perryman, the linebacker who, for the first time in his career last year, was a Pro Bowler, 102 solo tackles. He played great Vegas brought him in late in the offseason when they had some injuries and turned out really well for him. And there was kind of some questions about whether or not he would be the right kind of linebacker in the new scheme under the new defensive coordinator. But apparently after these mini camps especially, they love the guy. Now they're talking about signing the 30-year-old to maybe a 2-year extension, which if he keeps playing the way he is, I'd be absolutely fine with that. But I got to say, one of the stories that is floating around out there that makes me wonder a little bit about what's going on with the Raiders' backfield. Apparently, Jacobs has not been on the field at all during mini camps. Has not been on the field. Was not on the field during mandatory mini camp either. He's been in attendance, but he's not been practicing or doing anything physical other than some working out. And word is that they may not see Jacob as a cowbell heading into this season, kind of back. That
is the way Josh McDaniels, coming from the Patriot way, running backs are disposable.
Yeah, so they got a lot of them back there. I mean, he brought Brandon Bolden over from New England, and they still got Drake there. They drafted Zamir White, the young guy. They got a couple of other guys still on the roster.
They don't want to get Zeke Elliott, right? They don't want to have to pay a guy a bunch of money. I mean, I'll get to that because I got a Dallas Cowboys thing that I want to do later. But so Jeremy, the big thing there is maybe Jacobs is not going to be as featured as he was previously in the past couple of years.
No, it looks like he may not, unless he comes out just guns a-blazing and really tears it up this season. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot like what we're used to seeing in New England. Hot hand gets the ball, and you're going to see 4 or 5 different guys carrying the ball throughout the season. So, just a side note, I know it's early in the draft season, but I see, Josh Jacobs going in people's drafts as early as the 3rd round, and that's insane.
No.
Do not do it. This is a guy you may want to maybe as your 2nd or 3rd back, and you might use him as a flex once in a while when he has a good matchup, but he is not somebody you can depend on going into the fantasy season this year. All
right, Christian, you're on the Seahawks. One of the most talented receivers in the NFL is an issue now.
Yeah, what a week for the Seahawks, Their star wide receiver, DK Metcalf, missed their mandatory... Hello?
I can hear him.
All right. Seattle's their star receiver, DK Metcalf, missed his mandatory minicamp. He's sitting out in hopes of a lucrative deal that's been projected to be about 5 years, $130 million. And this would put him at an average annual salary of $26 million. This will make him one of the 5 highest paid receivers annually and the 2nd largest total contract value in the league. Metcalf is currently on the last year of his contract with Seattle. It's averaged to be $4.3 million this year with the cap hit. And this is where Seattle is met at a crossroads. Do they extend him or do they trade him? And before I go in, Loud, Jeremy, Rocky, what do you think they should do with DK?
Who you want to go to first, Christian?
Loud, who do you think?
Okay. I live in Seahawk land. I'm up in the Pacific Northwest. And DK Metcalf is a physical freak, but he also is something of a mental case. If I'm Pete Carroll, if I can get somebody to give me a 1st and a 2nd round pick for DK Metcalf, say Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay, who desperately need a number 1 wide receiver, that's the deal I'm making. Rocky.
Yeah, I think DK Metcalf's going to stay right where he's at. I don't think the Seahawks will let him go. They'll work it out. So if we're talking about the Seahawks still, by the way, I didn't hear a word Christian said. So I'll play it back later.
If you're Pete Carroll, if you can get a 1st or a 2nd from a team for DK, do you trade him or do you extend him at max receiver dollars?
It really depends on what you think your team is right now and what you think your team is going to be over the next couple of seasons. Are these
Let's
guys
just
you
say
have?
Your quarterback is Drew Lock.
That's what I mean. Are they just going to kind of go along this season with Drew Lock and Geno Smith and hope that they do well? Do they bring in Garoppolo or Baker? And that's really going to, make a difference, I think, of what they have in the quarterback room as to whether or not they want to pay a number one receiver. Talent-wise, I keep him around. The guy is an amazing talent. I know you say he's a little bit of a head case, but he's never been in any serious trouble, never brings any bad media or publicity.
Yeah, but you know what? If you watch the Seahawks games closely, whenever you can least afford a stupid penalty, he's the guy who commits it.
But he's got the kind of talent that warrants keeping him around and paying him a big contract. But like I said, it depends on what you think you have. And if you think you're not going to be competing over the next 2 or 3 seasons, something like a first and a second round pick looks really nice. It's a juicy deal when you need it.
Do the Seahawks think Drew Lock is the answer, or do they think they need to bring in either Garoppolo or Baker or a different quarterback, and then that will determine whether or not they keep the star wide receiver? Because if you've got nothing at quarterback and you're not going to win anyway, then you might as well build draft capital. So the question is, does Pete Carroll think he can win now, or is he playing to win 3 years from now?
I think Pete Carroll is thinking he can win now. I think Seattle extends DK Metcalf.
Who is Misty Panther?
That's
Christian's number one fan.
That's my
number one fan.
She's your number one fan, apparently.
Christian, for some reason I can't hear you. You did something to your mic?
I didn't do anything.
You know what? It's just you.
It's just
Rocky,
you, Rock.
Because the rest of us can hear.
It's just
all right, Rocky. Since you can't hear anybody else, let's all listen to you. Give us an update on the Rams.
Okay, first of all, I don't think DK Metcalf is going anywhere. I think he's going to play, and I think Drew Lock is going to nut up and play really well with him.
I agree.
At wide receiver.
Okay, Rams. MVP.
Rams.
Not for MVP, but most improved player, yes.
Maybe in the first week of the season, yeah. So let's talk about the Rams. Obviously, the Rams have a very tough schedule. I've hit on some of these things before.
Hang on a second. I'm going to go look up Drew Lock's odds to win the MVP.
Yes, for the first week of the season. So the obvious question is, can the Rams run it back? Are they going to repeat?
I'm sorry, there's too many decimals for Drew Lock to win the MVP for me to figure it out.
It's a Dewey Decimal System.
Like,
I said for the first week of the season,
Mars mission.
He might be the best quarterback in the first week of the season. You heard it here first. Number one. Anyway.
All right, Rocky. Okay. Sorry, my bad.
Can the Rams repeat? Okay, Rams have a lot of problems. I get a lot of people hitting me up trying to find out what's going to happen with the Rams. Well, the first most glaring problem that they have was the retirement of Andrew Whitworth. You don't just fill a guy like that. This is the most important position in football. It really is. Your quarterback cannot complete passes if he's on his back. And the left tackle is a guy, the blindside tackle. We all know who that guy is. He keeps from getting hit in the back and getting crippled. He's gone. Now, Joe Noteboom is going to take his place. A pretty underrated pass protector. He took 142 pass protection snaps, only allowed 5 pressures, no sacks. So he's a pretty capable guy, but he's no Andrew Whitworth. Now, here's the problem. He moved from guard to tackle. Now there's a problem at that left guard position. Well, David Edwards is going to go there. He will be free agency next year. So what they're doing is they're shuffling this line around. The good news is they got Logan Bruce in that 5,000th pick in the 3rd round. He's going to start at right guard. They're going to move him from tackle to guard. He is not going to be easing in at the right tackle spot. They're going to move him to guard and make it a little bit easier for him his first year in NFL. Then eventually when David Edwards is gone next year, he'll move over to the left guard. Eventually Bruce will be the left tackle. But there's another problem besides that. They don't have a backup quarterback. They didn't draft one. If anything happens, if they can't keep Matthew Stafford upright and Cooper Kupp upright, they haven't signed OBJ yet. They have a lot of problems. The Rams have a lot of problems. I still like them. They still have about one of the top 10 or 11 best offensive lines in football. And by the way, 5 of the 6 top offensive lines in the whole NFL are in the NFC. You know, and these are guys in this.
By the way,
they're going to be facing J.J. Watt, Zach Allen, Anik Armstead twice a year. You know, go ahead.
Sneaky good. The third best offensive line, according to Pro Football Focus,
Detroit Lions.
NFL
your boys.
The Detroit Lions.
Yeah, they're good. They're great. They got a great offensive line. Yeah,
and they added some great pieces on defense. So there's
and they're going to play smash-mouth football, and maybe your boy Jared Goff steps up. I like
fighters.
I hope he does well.
As much as you two love the Lions this season, we got to get some Lions fans watching this show because they don't get this kind of love anywhere else. Like you two do.
I do. It sounds crazy. All right. So let's do some NFL over-under picks here. I've got 3 teams I want to go over. I'm going to start with the Chicago Bears. So the Chicago Bears won 6 games last year. Their over-under this year. Hey, Jeremy, go back to the full picture because I want to see everybody's faces. Okay. Their over-under this year. Consider the Chicago Bears won 6 games last year. Their over-under currently in Vegas is 6.5. They have Justin Fields as their starting quarterback. Give me that barf bag that Rocky was dealing with earlier. Their running back, David Montgomery, is a nice player, but I had him in fantasy football last year, and he consistently disappointed. Their best offensive weapon was Allen Robinson. He's gone.
To the
Rams. Their best defensive player,
gone.
At least everybody said so, was Khalil Mack. He's gone. And they're going to win a half game more this year than they did last year? Rocky?
Not only that, but I think they're going to let.
And they have a new head coach.
Quinn's going to be out of there too. They're going to lose another one of their better defensive backs. I think he might end up signing with the Rams if they can work something out. Somebody's going to pull the trigger on Quinn pretty quick. If you can get that under on the Bears, get it now because it might drop after Quinn escapes Chicago.
All right. Quick take, Jeremy. What I just said about the Bears, they won 6 games last year. Are they a half game better after losing Allen Robinson, losing Khalil Mack, and committing to Justin Fields as their starting quarterback?
No, not at all. Honestly, I think the Bears are going to be one of the worst teams of this.
They're a dumpster
season.
fire.
I think they're going to be hard to watch. I don't have a lot of faith in Justin Fields at this point. And he's got, other than what's his name, Darnell Mooney, he's got really nobody else to throw to. Montgomery is a solid running back, but he's not great. He's not. You can't rely and put a whole offense around this guy and put it on his shoulders. Fields is going to have to play.
Let's just say he's no Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I guess so.
Couldn't resist. Sorry.
No, but yeah, I mean, Fields is going to have to just play out of his mind, even for this team to compete, because he just doesn't have the weapons, and they just don't have the talent on that team right now.
I think Fields is just going to get dump trucked this year.
He'll be back up somewhere else.
Honestly, I'm looking at 3-13 for the Chicago Bears. Let me just run through the schedule. They open with San Francisco and Chicago. I think they lose that on a special teams play or something. Then they go to Green Bay and they get crushed. They get Houston in Chicago. They get a win. Then they go at the New York Giants. They lose. Then they go at Minnesota and they lose. Then they go at Dallas and they lose. Then Miami comes in and they lose. Then they go at Detroit and they lose. They beat Atlanta. They go at New York and they lose. They get Green Bay at home and they lose. And then they go to Philadelphia and they lose. They get Buffalo in Chicago and they lose. And they go at Detroit and they lose. and then they go at Minnesota and they lose. I think they're a 3-13 team at best. Rocky.
Yeah, you know they may be tanking. You know, you don't let Khalil Mack go. You know, they're letting too many guys get out of there. And look, like I said, I think Robert Quinn's going to be out next. And I think it's obvious. You're right. They're going to dump truck Justin Fields, and he's a perfect quarterback to do it with because he's no good anyway. You know, if you're on to the truth.
Yeah, I honestly, I look at everything they've done and I go, oh, you're building draft capital for the future, Jeremy.
They're tanking.
Yeah, they're you know, pretty void of talent, and it's hard to compete when you're so void of talent. So it's going to be a long, rough season for them. And, you know, I hope that, you know, I know he's not going to do much this season, but I hope Justin Fields becomes something for them. You know, since they invested in the kid. I like when the Bears are a good team, but I just don't see it happening this year.
I think Justin Fields will be great using selling used cars wherever his hometown is.
I don't know where all this Justin Fields hate's coming from. He's not that bad of a quarterback. He's
Chris is coming in. Here we go.
I'm not going to say he's an amazing quarterback. I'm not going to say he's going to be a franchise quarterback or anything. But he's not going to be a backup somewhere. I can see him being a starter for a mediocre team, but he's not going to be a Super Bowl winning caliber quarterback. Drew Lock MVP 2022. You heard it here first.
Oh,
2 words.
Random bandwagon. That's great.
Butt fumble.
Mark Sanchez.
So
that's a Jeopardy question. Who is Mark
Sanchez? Here's another team that I think is going to massively disappoint. And my good friend Carlos Rodriguez is going to be very upset with me because I see real problems for the Dallas Cowboys. Zeke Elliott weighs about 900 pounds. He may be his own planet at this point, with his own sort of, you know, what is that when the satellites revolve around you? Anyway, just
orbit.
Orbit. He may have his
own gravitational pull.
His own gravitational pull.
There you go. I know all the fat jokes. Don't worry.
Amari Cooper is gone. Now, he wasn't great, but he's gone. They lost their best pass rusher in Randy Gregory to the Denver Broncos. And Micah Parsons is great, but with Randy Gregory gone, now you don't have to worry about anybody else. And oh, by the way, did anybody notice this? In their minicamp this week, all of their starting receivers were on injured reserve. CeeDee Lamb has a hamstring injury. Michael Gallup is recovering from ACL surgery. Washington, the third receiver, has an irritated foot tendon that has kept him from working out for the last 2 months. They have no receivers. They have Zeke Elliott at running back, who now, you know, I might beat in a 4-flat 40. Just kidding. And then,
I want to see that.
Yeah, and
I'll pay money to see that.
Are you
want me to start betting on sports, Lou? I'll do that one.
So Dak Prescott is going to have to be the whole freaking enchilada. Rocky, can he do that?
But there's good news. There's good
news? I missed
Yeah. The Eagles have the best offensive line in football.
Who does?
The Eagles. They have the best offensive line. That's the truth. But
it
doesn't matter because Jalen Hurts is their quarterback. Jalen Hurts will be selling used cars with the quarterback from the Bears next year. So it doesn't matter how bad it looks for the Cowboys. They're going to win. They're going to go over because they're going to win that division easy. Really easy. Yeah.
Rocky,
the Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys.
I'm going to try to refocus you.
Who in that division is going to beat the Dallas Cowboys? Who in their division is going to beat them?
Okay, let me just go through this.
Giants?
The Cowboys. Wait. The Cowboys' schedule is this: Tampa Bay to open the season on Sunday Night Football at Dallas. Loss. They go to Cincinnati loss. They win at the Giants. They win at the Washington Redskins. Then they go to the LA Rams and they lose. Then they go to Philadelphia and they lose. Then
they win.
Okay. One different. Then they go to Chicago and they win. Green Bay comes to town. No, they go to Green Bay and they lose. They go to Minnesota and they lose. They go to New York and they lose. They go to Indianapolis and they lose. And they beat Houston. They beat Jacksonville. They beat Philadelphia and they lose to Tennessee. And they're 9-8. Their over-under is 10.5.
9-8 still going to win the NFC East.
Yeah, exactly. That's how bad that division is.
Right.
You had them losing one. They're going to beat.
Let's say they split with Philadelphia and they split.
They're not going to split with Philadelphia.
Philadelphia's going to beat them twice.
No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not. I'm gonna tell you what. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you right now. Whatever the under is, the Eagles will not score half of that when they play the Giants, the Cowboys. I promise you.
Let me just go through this again.
Okay.
Cowboys versus Tampa Bay in Dallas. Do they win or lose?
Lose.
Cowboys versus Cincinnati in Cincinnati. Do they win or lose?
Lose.
Cowboys against Giants on Monday Night Football at New York.
Win.
Cowboys versus Washington, early game, doesn't matter.
Win.
At Rams.
Lose.
At Philadelphia.
Win. You have losing that one.
At Chicago.
Win.
At Green Bay.
Lose.
At Minnesota.
I think they beat Minnesota, but let's just say they lose.
I already have them winning that game. At New York.
Okay. They win. They beat New York.
They're going to sweep New York.
They're going to sweep New York. They're going to sweep Philadelphia. I'm telling you. Defense.
Indianapolis.
Now, see, I like them in that game, too. You have them losing that game. I think they win that game.
Okay.
Cowboys are not going to be that. Listen, Ezekiel Elliott is is probably the second best running back in the league, behind Derrick Henry.
He's the second best back on his team.
Taylor. Jonathan Taylor.
Zeke at this point is not even as good as Tony Pollard.
Zeke's not a top 10 running back anymore.
What happened to him?
He blew up. He's like, what?
I promise you,
He
Zeke's
might weigh
numbers will be
785 pounds.
No, isn't it? He weighs
great.
295.
I didn't realize he put it in
I don't know if he's quite that big, but I mean,
he's one of the top 5 running backs in the league for sure. Still, we'll see. I promise you.
He said, my was chubby. I was chubby.
He's a pudger. He's a pudger.
He's pudgy. Look, Cowboys aren't winning 10 games.
You know, I agree with Rock. I agree with Rocky. They will win that division just because it's that bad. But that take on Ezekiel Elliott,
they're going to win 10 games. They get 6 in their division.
I don't understand the Philly hate. I gotta say, they were a playoff team last year that got better.
I agree.
On defense and offense.
Who's their quarterback last year?
It was Jalen Hurts. And they made the playoffs. And they got better this year. They got him A.J. Brown and another offensive lineman.
Made the playoffs last year.
Oh, my God. The Cowboys are going to get their ass.
I thought Philly made the playoffs.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. And they improved in a bad division. So I just don't get all the Philly hate.
The Cowboys lost Amari Cooper, Randy Gregory. Their offensive line is a mess.
And they got no cap room.
And they've got no cap room, and their running back is a balloon.
And with A.J. Brown, Philly has the best wide receiver in that division.
Oh, yeah. No,
in that division, I can agree with that. He's a top 10 receiver in the league, no doubt.
The Cowboys at 10.5 wins? Oh, no freaking way.
I can see that just because Dak Prescott carries them on his back.
Dallas has a better record than Philly at the end of the year.
But
Dallas goes to Philadelphia.
Who cares? Who has a better win?
They're in the same division. We're talking about the Cowboys. We're talking about who goes.
That doesn't matter. What we're talking about is betting. Are the Cowboys going to win 10.5 games or not?
They're going to win 10.
And my answer is F, no.
They win 10.
All right, guys. We got to wrap. It's that time. All right, everyone. Thank you, Rocky, Christian, Loud, everyone who joined us on the show, either on the radio or here on YouTube. We'll be back next week. You'll be able to find us at all the usual fun spots for Steer the Line at 5 o'clock Pacific time.
Fun spots.
Yes, all the fun spots. So we'll see you then, guys. We are. I got to close here. We are out. Where our close go? Here
Thank you very much.
No, that's
sir.
not it.
We'll see you Friday. Christian,
Guess I don't have a
hear
close. So we're just gonna end it. Bye.
We're just gonna close it. Okay,
Bye.
Here we go. See ya.